Pelosa, and you admitted every which way you could that that was, in fact, marijuana, that you purchased it legally in Missouri, that you used it to sleep, and that you knew that it was marijuana. So you basically shored that charge up beyond a reasonable doubt. So between the state's evidence and yours, I find you guilty of possession of marijuana in count 2. Count 3, driving while suspended. The certified records made it very clear that your license was suspended. I know you objected to the 2 reports from the state of Missouri claiming they were falsified, but taking the report as a whole, I find your license was suspended on January 21st and that you had a prior conviction for driving while suspended. So I find you guilty of that charge as well. Failure to register your vehicle seems to be the most or the least difficult for me to find you guilty of, because it wasn't registered. Now, I know you gave me a good explanation for why you believe it was registered.
Even before the hearing really begins, it's clear this won't be an ordinary case. The person on trial isn't just discussing the facts. They're questioning how the entire legal system works. Right from the start, when asked something simple like their name, they shift the conversation to ideas about trusts, beneficiaries, and whether the court even has authority. If you've seen situations like this before, you can probably guess what's coming next. The judge is trying to confirm basic details and follow standard procedure. Meanwhile, the defendant is working from a completely different set of beliefs, ones that courts rarely recognize. This creates tension right away, because courtrooms rely on clear rules and established law, not personal theories. So the big question is this a clever legal strategy, or is it going to fall apart? As things move forward, you'll see a direct clash between how courts actually work and a viewpoint that doesn't stand up under legal review. I was going to call Miss... Yes. The gentleman in the jail, what's your name?
I'm here by special appearance, ma'am, and I reserve all my rights and none of them. I am the beneficiary and priority leader.
Stop. I asked you what your name was.
What my name is?
Your name. Do you have
are you talking to the living man or to the trust?
Which do you want me to talk to?
The trust.
All right. Is the trustee of the trust here?
Yes, she's sitting. That is you, ma'am.
Oh, no, I'm not any trustee of your trust. I don't know anything about your trust.
We haven't established the status of the court yet, ma'am.
Never mind. We're moving. Deputy at the jail, are you there?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to save him till later. So if you need to put him back for a while, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. And we'll go back to, what's his name, Deputy?
I apologize.
Mr. Palooza.
Oh, that's Mr. Palooza, who has 2 cases. Yeah, we'll save him to the last. All right, I believe, Mr. Patterson, that brings up you and Mr. Palooza.
And judges, standby counsel, I'll whatever the court wants me to do, but I would propose I just leave my screen black and muted unless I'm needed.
All right. Well, we will be on the record right now in BU 2026 CR 25 and BU 2026 MR 19. What is that one? Let me look at it. Mr. Patterson, do you know about that case?
I am vaguely aware that there's an extradition case on a misdemeanor, but other than that, I know nothing about it.
Well, let's focus today, first of all, on the traffic or the misdemeanor. So which case are you ready to take up, Mr. Baca, or both?
Your Honor, I do know both are on today. I do think the CR case is going to be the one that takes up most of the time here. The other one's an extradition matter.
All right, so this is not a traffic matter. This is charged as count 1, interference with a law enforcement officer, falsely reporting information intending to obstruct law enforcement. Count 2, possession of marijuana, Count 3, driving while suspended, a second or subsequent conviction. And count 4, unlawful vehicle registration. All right, Mr. Baca, any opening statement?
Your Honor, state would waive any opening statements at this time.
Mr. Patterson, any opening statements from the defense?
Judge, I don't have any part in this, so I'm going to black my screen out.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you probably better. Otherwise, I'll keep calling on you. But before you go, let's talk to well, that's fine. All right, Mr. Pelosa, what's going on here? You're wanting to represent yourself, is that right?
Ma'am, we haven't established the status of this court yet. I don't know you. Do you have a valid oath of office?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, I accept your oath of office and your offer to be my public servant and trustee.
I'm not your trustee in the legal sense or in any sense, sir.
You're a public trustee, ma'am.
Call me what you will, but I'm not accepting it. Go ahead.
At this point, a clear pattern is starting to emerge. What began as a simple question about identity has turned into a much bigger debate about who he is, the court's authority, and his legal standing. Instead of giving a direct answer, he keeps steering the conversation toward ideas the court doesn't accept. That's when things begin to unravel. In a courtroom, you can't rewrite the rules. You have to follow them. The judge remains calm but firm, making it clear she won't treat these arguments as a replacement for proper legal steps. The main problem is this. He seems to think he's making progress, but from the court's point of view, he's only making things more confusing. So the real question is this confidence or a serious misunderstanding of how the legal system actually works?
I would like you to take notice of the notice and demand that this court has received on Monday, and is the prosecution here to provide evidence from that notice and demand?
Notice in demand, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it was filed on Monday.
Monday, March 22nd. I see that today, no, I see that on March 23rd, that would be Monday. You filed something called Notice and Demand, facts filed by Shelley Flaherty with Loren Court Reporting. Are you claiming to be Shelley Flaherty with Loren Court Reporting? Sir?
No, I'm not claiming that.
Well, that's the only thing I see that's entitled, and it's not. So, fax transmission sheet, date March 23rd, 26, to the clerk of the District Court, Butler County, State of Kansas versus Gary Michael Pelosa, from Shelley Flaherty, Loren Court Reporting, Cape Coral, Florida.
Yeah, that's my notice and demand to the court.
Well, that's 15 pages reportedly by this Miss Flaherty, not you.
I signed it.
Then why did you make demand? Okay. All right, go ahead. What do you want me to consider in this document that doesn't seem to have any Kansas authority in it, does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, well, you make your argument and show me where that is. Tell me what Kansas law needs applied and how. Go ahead.
I'm challenging territorial jurisdiction. Is the prosecution ready to provide ownership of the locus and quo of this matter at 114 Highway 54 on Andover?
He doesn't have to show that he owns that.
No, the state has to show that. I don't even see the state here, ma'am.
That request is denied. Next item.
I reject that premise.
Noted. Does that mean you? Okay, go on.
Okay, I'm here by special appearance and I reserve all my rights and I waive none of them. I am the beneficiary and priority lien holder via a Kansas UCC lien registration number 5676382 over the defendant, the Gary Michael Pelosa Social Security Trust, registration number, last four digits ending in 0762. And as a beneficiary and priority lien holder, I have the authority to order you as trustee to dismiss and discharge this court matter case immediately and release my collateral, the defendant, Gary Michael Pelosa, from the custody of Butler County Jail to the streets immediately.
Now, are you Gary Michael Pelosi or are you someone else?
I'm the beneficiary. Gary Michael Pelosi is a trust.
All right, if Gary Michael Pelosi fails to appear, I'm going to have to issue a warrant for his arrest, but that's kind of silly since you're sitting in the county jail. What's your motion or request at this time, sir? To dismiss the case?
I want to process. There's no jurisdiction in this matter, ma'am. There's nothing in the record that showed that this court has jurisdiction. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution, which you said you swore an oath to, states, those cases in which a state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. You cannot sit here being employed by the state of Kansas and judge a case that your employer, the state of Kansas, pays you for. That's a conflict of interest. Are you a member of the bar in good standing, ma'am?
Sir, at this time, I deny your allegations.
Is your bar number 12910?
Sir, at this time, your motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction is denied, and you can take that up further if you appeal this with the Kansas Supreme Court.
You cannot you cannot deny a motion. Subject matter can be challenged at any time, ma'am, and there's no—
I have jurisdiction, sir, over the subject matter.
There is no subject matter. What is the subject matter? There is no contract.
Denied. Let's move on. What's your next point?
You can't do that, ma'am.
I can.
You're violating your oath of office without any authority, and I have the sheriffs here that can make a citizen arrest to any judge that violates their oath of office. You're violating your oath of office. You do not have jurisdiction. The Constitution says so at Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2.
We'll let the appellate courts decide that, sir. Let's move on. What's the next point?
We don't need it. You can't move on without jurisdiction.
I can and I will. You don't have anything else you want to say before we start this trial?
What trial? You don't have jurisdiction to have a trial.
All right. Mr. Baca, do you want to call your first witness?
I can if the court's ready to proceed, Your Honor.
I'm ready to proceed unless the defendant has anything legitimately he wants to have heard. Doesn't sound like he does.
Your Honor, the state at this time is ready to proceed and would call Sergeant Akers to the stand. Were you on duty in your current employment capacity on January 21st, 2026?
Yes, I was.
And on that day, around 2040 hours, do you recall your location?
Yes, I do.
What was that location?
I was parked running stationary traffic enforcement at Highway 54, mile marker 232, which is thereabouts the intersection of Highway 54 and Santa Fe Lake Road, Augusta, Kansas.
And then what, if anything, did you observe at that location at that time?
I was parked facing westbound in a section of the roadway, which is the median, which is clear from traffic. And at that time frame, I observed a vehicle on my rear radar that was traveling at 45 miles per hour, which was also westbound.
Okay. And do you know the posted speed on that particular roadway?
I do. It's 65 miles per hour.
And so your testimony is this vehicle seemed to be driving slower than the posted speed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Once you made this observation, what did you do next?
And it's strange and odd. And at this point, I was determined to follow the vehicle so that way I could see if there was anything wrong with the driver and or the vehicle or any other kind of investigation that need merited.
And so you started following this vehicle at this point, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as you were following this vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe?
At one point, it actually slowed down to 22 miles per hour. At this point, I was able to get up behind the vehicle to attempt to get the tag off of the vehicle so I could continue trying to see what was going on.
And were you able to get any information from that tag?
I actually wasn't. When I had first ran the tag, I ran it on my own, which I had suspected maybe it was a Missouri tag. I could make out the letters, but there was something covering over the state, so I wasn't exactly sure of the state registration. But I had ran it, which I suspected was through Missouri, on my mobile data terminal, or MDT, which has NCIC access, and I had a return that said that it was or canceled, removed.
Okay. And so after you made this observation about the tag, what did you do at this point?
I wanted to confirm and be doubly sure. At this point, it was already a violation based off the NCIC hit that it was illegal registration, but I wanted to be absolutely positive before taking an enforcement action. So I continued to follow the vehicle and attempt to identify any which way that I could confirm if it was a Missouri plate.
Okay. And so at some point, were you able to confirm the tag?
I was.
Okay.
Go ahead.
At some point, did you attempt to stop this vehicle?
I did.
Can you describe that process as you stopped the vehicle?
At the time in which I continued to follow it, it had driven all the way to the Andover Quick Shop, which is located at 114, I believe, West Highway 54 in Andover, Kansas. As the vehicle was turning into the parking lot, I was able to clearly see the license plate said Missouri over the top. At this point, I was able to confirm not only what I had seen, but also what I had checked through dispatch, that it was truly a canceled, revoked, removed license plate. And that's at this point when the vehicle pulled into a stall is where I made my traffic stop or initiated contact.
So the vehicle had stopped before you turned on any lights or siren, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And once the vehicle stopped, what did you do at that point?
As the vehicle stopped, I recalled the driver, a white male, exited the driver's seat. I exited my vehicle to make contact with it to let him know that I was actually conducting a traffic stop. And the reason why was that the license plate on his vehicle didn't return valid.
And did this particular driver have a response to that?
He explained to me that he was not necessarily the owner of the car, but that he was using the car and he was transporting the car from its place where it was purchased in Missouri back to a location in Kansas. I don't exactly recall where. He also explained to me that he was doing this on the behalf of somebody else.
And do you recall what that name and date of birth was that he gave you at that time?
He gave me the name Garrison Michael, with the date of birth that the driver gave me was March 12th of 1958. And again, identified himself as Garrison Michael and gave himself or explained that his short name was Gary.
And did you receive any kind of response from your mobile data terminal?
I did not, actually.
What exactly did the terminal indicate to you, if anything?
I wasn't able to get a return through Kansas for an individual by the name of Garrison Michael. Actually, there was another Garrison Michael that was since deceased. However, I wasn't able to find exacting information as provided to me by the driver.
Did you also check the name along with the date of birth you were provided?
I did.
And did the date of birth help you give any further information?
It did eventually.
Okay. After you received this indication from your terminal, what did you do at that point?
I met back with the driver to try to confirm the information. At this point, I had already suspected maybe there wasn't full information that the individual was giving me, or I even suspected at this point that the individual was giving me fictitious information. I asked the individual or the driver a series of questions about their history or physical identity, which included addresses in which they've lived, states in which they've lived, telephone numbers, places in which they've lived, people which they've lived with. Based out of this information, I learned that the driver indicated he was from an address in Wichita, in addition to having previously lived in Texas. In addition to that, there was a name in common with a girlfriend because of the place that he was recently living at in Platte, Missouri. I used this information and continued to search through law enforcement databases and was able to find Gary Michael Pelosa with the same date of birth with exacting addresses from both Wichita, Missouri, and Texas, and associations with the same individual he identified as his girlfriend.
Did you ask the defendant about the discrepancies in the name between Garrison Michael and Gary Michael Pelosa?
I did on a couple of times, or a couple of different times during this incident.
What was his response?
The first response was that he didn't recognize who Gary Michael Pelosa was, and in fact, he actually even denied that this was who he was. As time went on through the investigation, in addition to some other things that occurred, to include the discovery of an old Kansas driver's license that bore his image and was found in the vehicle, he eventually explained that he is Gary Michael Pelosa, but he doesn't identify as Gary Michael Pelosa because that's a name that was applied to him. And instead, Garrison Michael is the name that he assumed. And therefore, he believed that he wasn't lying to me by calling himself Garrison Michael and denying that he's Gary Michael Pelosa.
At any point during this investigation, did you see any information on Garrison Michael with the date of birth that he gave you?
I did not. I found Garrison Michael with similar addresses on mail that was in the vehicle. However, I did not find anything with official documentation or identification.
So once you received the information of Gary Michael Pelosa, did you then check that information with the date of birth on your records?
I did.
And did you discover anything in particular about any official state documents at that point?
I did.
What, if anything, did you discover?
I discovered that he had a license through the state of Missouri, which was suspended actually 2 times on the same date, which was in December. In addition to that, I discovered that he had outstanding warrants for his arrest, and I don't exactly recall where those warrants were.
Okay. And did you discover any documentation that related to the state of Kansas?
I did.
And what was that documentation?
That was a Social Security card in a package, a Ziploc bag, along with several financial cards and a Kansas driver's license, which appeared quite old, that was actually concealed inside the fuse box underneath the hood inside the vehicle.
So after you made this check and received this information, what did you do at that point?
I placed the individual, the driver, under arrest.
And what was he placed under arrest for?
Interference, providing a fictitious name of law enforcement, which appeared to be in direct attempt to impede my investigation, in addition to driving while suspended, and for the registration violation.
Okay. And did you inform the defendant that's what he was being placed under arrest for?
I did, and if I might add, also, he was under arrest due to the outstanding warrants. In that conversation, we discussed the reason why that we were having such a mix-up or a miscommunication, or that there was contradicting and contrary information that was being given out. He explained that he did not, one, recognize that he had a Social Security number because that number was assigned to him through the Social Security Administration, so therefore he didn't declare ownership of it. And then even in addition to that, he did not declare ownership of any license issued through any state due to the fact that he did not agree to the terms in which the contractual relationship was constructed between him and whichever issuing state it was.
Okay. And so once he was placed under arrest, where did the defendant proceed to go at that point?
At that time, I transported the defendant to the Butler County Detention Facility.
And so after he was taken to the Butler County Detention Facility from that day to today, did you have any other conversation with the defendant?
No.
Now going back, this vehicle that is now at the convenience store, can you inform what happens with this vehicle once you place the defendant under arrest?
I apologize. At that point, it was a determination of whether or not it was going to be allowed to remain, which was in largely consent out of the ownership of the store, which was the Andover Quick Shop, and in addition to the owner of the vehicle, which at the time, or at this time, I don't recall his exact name. But I was in conversation with the owner of the vehicle and the store to determine if the vehicle could remain there. At the end of that, that's what was determined, was that we would leave the car there with the keys with the store clerk, and then the owner would make arrangements to have the car collected.
Okay. And so there was nothing removed from the vehicle or looked at in the vehicle by you or any other officers at that time?
There was.
Okay. Why was it that the vehicle was looked into at that point?
And during the stop, thereabouts the time where I was still attempting to confirm the identity of the driver, I had requested a canine to come to the vehicle to conduct an open air sniff for the odor of narcotics. That canine deployment was conducted, which resulted positive for the odor of narcotics. Thus, at that point, we initiated a